In this video, we are going to visually understand the working of forEach map, filter and reduce. We'll start with forEach. Here we have a variable named numbers and a function double, and we are saying numbers.forEach, and we are passing the callback function double inside forEach. The first thing we need to understand is as soon as we say numbers.forEach, forEach will convert this array into a stream of data. What does it mean when I say stream of data is the value will be flowing one after another. So it will be 1, 2, 3 and keep going on. So for the first time, the value passed inside the function double will be 1 and the value of num will be 1. Inside this function you're saying console log num, the value of num is 1, so output will be 1. Similarly, because it is stream of data, the next value will be 2. The value of num will update to 2 and the output in console will be 2. Similarly, it will keep going on, updating the value to 3 and output will be 3. In this way, it will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So this is how forEach works. Let's move on to the next example. The only difference here is we are saying return number. Earlier we were saying console log 2. The same thing will happen here because of numbers.forEach. This array will be converted into a stream of data, and from this function, instead of logging the value, we are saying return num into 2. So 1 multiplied by 2 will be 2. Similarly, 2 will be passed inside, the value of num is 2, output will be 4. But the thing we need to understand about forEach only calls the callback function. In our case it is double, with each value once at a time. It doesn't do anything with a value that is being returned from here. In our previous case, we were logging the value here, but here we are returning the value. So finally what will happen, these values will be garbage collected. And what do I mean with garbage collected? Like this value will be deleted. So forEach converts the array into a stream of data and taking each value at a time calls the callback function. That's all. Let's move on to the next function, that is map. So here in this code snippet, you can see we have the similar variable numbers, a function named double, and we are saying numbers.map double. So the first thing that will happen is map will convert this array into a stream of data, and the value of num for the first time will be 1. That 1 will be passed inside the double function. Finally, it will return the value from here, that will be 1 multiplied by 2, that will be 2. Similarly, 2 will be passed now, the value of num is 2, the output is 4. 3 will be passed, the output will be 6. So it will keep doing that, but along with that, there is another thing also map does, is like it will create a new array. And whatever being returned from the callback function will be stored in the array. 2, 4, 6. For the next time it will be 4. The value of num is 4. From here the value returned is 8 and 8 will be stored into new array. Same will happen with 5. Return value will be 10. 10 will be stored. Similarly 12, 14, 18, 16, 18. So this will be the final value and the value returned from map. So the value of double number will be this value 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 and 18. So map converts the array into a stream of data and passes the value one after another. Whatever getting returned from here gets stored into a new array, and this is the final array gets returned from map. Let's move on to the next function. The only difference here is we are saying console log num, and here we are saying return number. So what difference will it create? Let's see that. So map will convert this array into a stream of data. The value 1 will be the value of num, and what will get returned from here? If you notice, there is no return statement in this function, and because of that the value returned will be undefined. And so in that case, map always creates a new array, and whatever gets returned from the callback function is what is stored here. So the value stored here will be undefined. Similarly, the same case will happen here. In console, the message will be 2, but the output will be undefined. So it will be undefined again. Similarly, for each of these values, the return will be undefined. So the output will be undefined, undefined, undefined 9 times, similar to the number we have. One thing to notice is map always returns same size of array. Whether it is returning only undefined or the real value, it will always return the same size of array. So this is a very common mistake that a lot of people makes, is not returning value from map, and in that case the output will be undefined, undefined, undefined. Let's move on to the next function, filter. Here we have variable numbers, a function isodd, and we are saying numbers.filter and passing the callback function isodd. So numbers.filter will convert this array into a stream of data, and the first value passed will be 1. And if you pass 1 into num here, the output will be true. Similarly, in the case of 2, the value of num will be 2 and the output will be false. The reason it is either true or false because we are using comparison operator here. And what filter does a similar thing than map. The only difference is map stores each value returned from the callback function, but filter first checks whether the return value from the callback function is a truthy or not. True is a truthy value, so for the first time 1 will be stored here. For 2, the value is false, so it will not do anything. For 3, the output will be true again. And because the output is true, 3 will be stored here. For 4, it is false, so nothing will happen. For 5, it will return true, and because the value is true, the output will be 5. Similarly, 6, nothing will happen. 7 will be stored here, and 9 will be stored here. And because now 9 is stored, the final output is 13579, and that is what gets returned from the function. So filter will return this array. So the difference between map and filter is map always returns same size of array, but filter will return either same size or lower size of array. Let's see the difference here. So here we are saying return num modulus 2, and here we are just returning the num. So the only difference that will happen is 1 will go inside, the value of num is 1 and the output will be 1. For 2, the output will be 2. Earlier we were checking on true or false value, but here the value is not true or false. And filter only understands true or false value. So filter will convert this value into boolean by saying boolean 1. And because 1 is a truthy value, the output will be true. In case of 2 also, the output will be true. Or in all the cases the output is true, it will store each value. So the final output will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the array will not change. Let's see a special case. What if I say return undefined? Undefined is a falsy value. So it will return undefined. Undefined will be converted into boolean. So the output will be false. And because of that, it will return an empty array. So whenever a callback function inside filter returns a falsy value like this, it will always return an empty array. Let's move on to the next function, that is reduce. Here we have a variable numbers and a function add which accepts two parameters, accumulator and current value, and returns the sum of those values. While calling reduce, we are saying numbers.reduce and we are passing callback function and the initial value. In our previous cases, we saw that here we were getting access to only one value, but this time it has two values, accumulator and current value. So the initial value of accumulator is decided by the second parameter from here. So the initial value of accumulator will be 0 because we are passing 0 from here. So the current value is always going to be the elements of array, and that will be 1. So the value of accumulator is 0, the value of current value is 1, and here you are saying 0 plus 1. Because the value is 0 plus 1, it will be added and the output will be 1, because here we are saying return. So 1 getting returned. Because of that, what will happen? The next value of accumulator will update from 0 to 1. Now the value of accumulator is 1 and the value of current value is also 1. So here in this case, it will be 1 plus 1. It will be added and then it will be updated from 1 to 2. Now the value of current value will be 2 and the value will be 2 plus 2. It will be 4. So 4 will be there. Next is 4 plus 3. It will be 7. Next will be 7 plus 4, 11, and it will keep going on. Finally, the value will be 45. And the final value of accumulator will be 45. So the final value of accumulator is what gets returned from reduce. Value of accumulator is initialized by the second parameter here, and the final value of accumulator is the value that gets returned from reduce. So in this way, we learned about for method, started with forEach, and we got to know that forEach takes each element of the array and calls the callback function with that value. And when you're using console log, it will show the message in console, but when you're using return, it will not do anything to the value and it will be garbage collected. But in case of map, what happens? Each element of the array is passed to the callback function. Whatever getting returned from the callback function is stored inside an array, and this is what gets returned from map. What if I don't return anything from the callback function of map? So the function will return undefined and the output will be undefined, and map will always return the same size of array. Let's move on to filter. Here we can see each element of the array is passed to the callback function, and based on the value it returns either true or false. If the value is true, it gets stored into an array and that is what gets returned. But what if I return undefined from here? Because undefined is a falsy value, it will always give us an empty array. But if we return a truthy value from here, it will always give the same size of array. And filter always returns same size or size smaller than the main size. We'll move on to the last one, reduce. Reduce accepts two parameters, callback function and the initial value of accumulator. So the initial value of accumulator was 0 and the current value will be 1. And here we are saying accumulator plus current value. So these two values will be added and the value returned from this function will be the next value of accumulator. And the final value of accumulator is what gets returned from reduce. So in that way, the inner working of array methods like forEach, map, reduce, and filter.